What a treat. What a treat. Our next speaker is a face you probably see every day, whether she's at your job, in your building, or in your neighborhood canvassing, or talking to people about their concerns for this city. She is present in the community. You may know her by the blue and white signs that are proudly displayed on lawns everywhere. Yes, she is Chasity Wells-Armstrong. I want to tell you guys a little bit more about her. Chasity received her bachelor's and master's degree in social work from Governor State University. She has served as director in many positions and has worked at the local, state, and federal levels of government. In 2016, she was chosen as the Social Worker of the Year. Now, that is something to be clapping about. In the state, she currently serves as Alderwoman of the 5th Ward. Now, one of the many things that you will hear Chasity say is, "You will not outwork me." And I know this because I heard her say it. And I've seen her in action. So it's easy to see that she understands that there is no elevator to achieving great things. You have to take the stairs. She believes in Kankakee and believes that Kankakee can do better and wants to be the new vision and the new voice as your mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Democratic nominee in the Kankakee mayoral race, Chasity Wells-Armstrong.
Happy Women's History Month. And it's also Social Worker Month, so good morning. I want to thank Melissa and Andre for inviting me to be part of this beautiful and uplifting event. And I want to thank everyone who has worked very hard to create a beautiful experience for all the women here today. I have been asked to speak about leadership. Leadership means different things to different people around the world and different things in different situations. For example, it could relate to community leadership, religious leadership, political leadership, and leadership of campaigning groups. According to the idea of transformational leadership, an effective leader is a person who does the following: creates an inspiring vision for the future, motivates and inspires people to engage with that vision, manages delivery of the vision, coaches and builds a team so that it is more effective at achieving the vision. Leadership brings together the skills needed to do these things. Therefore, leadership is proactive, problem solving, looking ahead, and not being satisfied with things as they are. When you hear the word leadership, what comes to your mind? Who comes to mind? Were any of those leaders who came to your minds women? Women are leaders, although the power structures in our society have placed us in inferior roles. Women have not always had a voice, and we are fighting for our voices to be heard even today. I want to share a story with you about one of my she-roles and the impact women have in our society. I am a social worker, and I am very proud of my profession. Social workers have vast skills, and most people put us in a little box. They think we work for DCFS and child welfare systems, or they think of us as school social workers. However, social workers are leaders, and they change the world. During 2010, I attended the Social Work Congress in Washington, D.C. It convenes every 10 years, and only 600 social workers across the United States are selected to attend. I attended a presentation by a woman who had worked for the Washington Post, and she chronicled the life of a phenomenal social worker. She is one of my favorites, Frances Perkins. Who was she? I call her a bad mamma jamma. She was the first woman ever to serve in a presidential cabinet. She served as Secretary of Labor for President FDR from 1933 to 1945. Keep in mind, women did not have the right to vote until 1920. She was a smart woman and she knew how to navigate systems. She was intuitive about people, and although she was working around men who held the power in the country, she was effective in bringing a voice. She learned men's behaviors and how they responded to her. She was not a glamorous woman. She didn't wear makeup. She dressed matronly and found that men responded with the most respect to their mothers. She used that as a strength. Being a woman, she was aware of issues that impacted women. She witnessed a 12-story building filled with seamstresses burned to the ground. There was no fire escape. She was horrified, and she became a leader for workers' rights. She ended up writing a significant portion of New Deal legislation that we benefit from today. OSHA protections, a 40-hour work week, child labor law protections. Back then, 9 and 10-year-old children were working in factories. They were being maimed and killed by machinery and heavy equipment. I aspire to be a modern-day Frances Perkins. While I am a bit more fashionable, my passion is advocacy for others who often do not have a voice and public policy because I understand the implication of policy on our lives. Policy impacts everything we do. The rec center has policies that must be adhered to when you rent the space. If any of you have ever applied for a scholarship, there are certain policies and guidelines that must be met for you to be eligible for that scholarship. My passion is advocacy and public policy. What are you passionate about? What makes you want to get up in the morning? What can you do every day and would do every day if you did not have to worry about money? Think about that, because that is where you have potential to become a leader. I shared that story about Frances Perkins to encourage you, to give you some history about a woman from an outsider's view who was up against a system and male-dominated power structure. But she used her insight, her compassion, and relationship with a sitting U.S. president to bring about change that still impacts us today. We need women leaders more than ever. I have seen women under attack. When the Affordable Care Act was being passed, there were hearings in Washington, D.C. by all-male panels fighting against women's rights to contraceptives. Did you know that 70% of people living in the world in poverty are women and children? And just last week, as the current president and Congress worked to repeal the Affordable Care Act, male leaders in Washington and even in our state in Illinois are asking why maternity care should be covered. We need women leaders. We need to bring our voices and perspectives to the forefront, particularly when policies are being made. For those of you who may not know, I am running for mayor in the city of Kankakee. As a little kid, I never had a desire to run for public office. When I was a kid, I never saw a mayor who looked like me. I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to serve in some way. My journey of compassion and advocacy came from my own suffering, watching my mother struggle with depression over the loss of her mother, watching my dad endure PTSD from having grown up in poverty and serving during the Vietnam War. I endured some of my own struggles as a teenager, an abusive boyfriend in high school, becoming a teen runaway, dropping out of school my senior year, and becoming a teen mother at 18. But women are resilient. We have and continue to fight for ourselves and others. Some people were very frustrated with me when I was an angry teen and not making good choices. Someone even told me, "You are going to be a zero." That person was not trying to hurt me, but trying to motivate me. However, it hurt me deeply. And if I had believed that, I would not be where I am today. I would not have accomplished the things I have accomplished today. I went on to work 2 jobs most of my life, put myself through college, and take care of my family. I earned an associate's degree, an addictions counseling credential, a bachelor's and a master's in social work. I was selected during 2007 to serve as a national policy fellow in DC, where I had my light bulb moment about the significance of advocacy and policy. My worldview expanded, especially after hearing the story of Terry Zinner and meeting her husband on Capitol Hill. Terry Zinner was a social worker. She worked with mentally ill clients. And one day she went out to do a home visit. She was supposed to pick up her 10-year-old daughter following the home visit, and she never showed up. Once her husband found out that she was missing, they tracked her down to the client's home. She had been killed. She had been stabbed repeatedly, almost to the point of decapitation. Her husband wanted to do something to protect social workers, so he lobbied his congressman, Dennis Moore, who was a representative from Kansas at the time. And I had the opportunity to meet him and hear his story on Capitol Hill. And that was life-changing for me, to see that an everyday person can go to a legislator. And we are fortunate that we're able to go to our legislators, like a Senator Hutchinson, and tell them our story and have them fight on our behalf. So they introduced legislation called the Terry Zinner Safety Work Act. And it did not get through Congress under Dennis Moore's tenure. He has since left Congress. But he wanted protections in place because social workers are in dangerous situations. They don't have guns like the police. They don't have the tools the police have to keep them safe. And he was concerned about that. That experience led me to pursue a career path. I have been working for a member of Congress for the past 4 years, and a total of 6 years between the two members of Congress. I also worked for Debbie Halverson and currently work for Congressman Bill Foster. And I ran for office during 2015, becoming the first African-American woman elected to represent the 5th Ward in the city of Kankakee, where I serve now on the city council. This year on February 28th, the last day of Black History Month, and the eve of Women's History Month, which starts in March, I made history again by becoming the first African-American woman to win a mayoral primary race in Kankakee's history. I beat 3 male candidates with 62% of the vote. Women are often underestimated, but I encourage you to walk in your power. We are smart, we are instinctive, we are powerful. And you may not be happy with where you are today, but that does not mean you have to be defined by today's circumstances. Keep moving forward. I don't like what I see going on in the city of Kankakee. And just like Francis Perkins, I have learned about the political system and decided to put forth a new vision and a new voice for Kankakee's residents. I believe in the potential of women, in their passions and dreams. I believe in our community. I find it ironic that men devalue our compassion and emotions, oftentimes saying that we are too emotional or hormonal to be in charge. Yet women have not started wars. And even when wars are started against us, we find the strength in one another, organize movements, and march to places like Washington, D.C. and Chicago, as you witnessed this January. And guess what? There was no violence during any of those marches. Because women have the right mix of intelligence, compassion, and insight to effectively lead. So given all that we have, I encourage each of you to think about your talents, what you are passionate about, to build networks with other women, to surround yourself with positive people and people who push you from a place of love to be better. Know that you are leaders. Know that you are leaders. And don't be afraid to put forth your vision to do your part to change the world. In closing, I will leave you with a quote. Leadership is not about men in suits. It is a way of life for those who know who they are and are willing to be their best to create the life they want to live. Kathleen Schaefer. Thank you.